What's going on, traders? Happy Wednesday. I hope you guys all had an amazing day, but I'm going to go ahead and let you guys know exactly how my trading went today, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. And as you guys can see from the screen, it was a green day overall on my account, and in terms of how I did trading wise, I only focused on SQQQ today. As you guys can see, I had no trades on TQs. And so in terms of how I did, I hit my 1% daily goal, right? I made $100 using $10,000, and so these were all my filled orders. Right, you guys can see I started trading at market open and I stopped trading at 9:30 today. So I traded for about 3 hours and I didn't have too many filled orders compared to how I have been trading, the past few weeks where I would have hundreds of filled orders, right? And so that's been my goal for the week. It's been really trying to focus on more quality setups and getting into less trades throughout the day, right? And being more selective. But let me go ahead and break down to you guys exactly how my day trading did go. But the reason why I didn't actually end up trading TQQQ today was because of the fact that I personally thought the NASDAQ was very overextended, right? As you guys can see, even on the past 5-day, 5-minute chart, the NASDAQ, anytime it started to approach these levels around this area, right, around 13,360, it would tend to get rejected, right? Then it would eventually bounce, test the resistance, then get rejected, right? And so as we started to push up to these levels, right, it definitely made sense to me as to why there would be more upside in SQQQ rather than TQQQ, right? I wasn't sure exactly when this thing was going to reverse, but I knew around these general areas it tended to struggle, right? And so that's why I decided to focus on SQs for the day. And so as you guys can see, market was trading, pretty sideways, but heading into market open, we saw this nice pop up, or not market open, 5:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, right? And so the reason why we did see this positive shift up is because of the fact that the CPI data report came out today. And what was actually reported, as you guys can see, was that inflation actually edged slightly lower in April. And so it was mentioning that although inflation itself is very high, right, it was still a positive note that we did decrease even though it was, only slightly. And so because of that, we did see the markets, start to uptrend and use the EMA as a support. And what actually ended up happening, well, we eventually peaked out, right? And that news started to become a little irrelevant, right? And once that buying pressure died down, what actually ended up happening, well, the selling pressure started to kick in. And so I started buying in a little too early here, right? As this thing started to push up, I would buy into SQs and start averaging up. But it was too premature, right? What actually ended up happening is I got stopped out in my first trade because it broke the resistance, right? And because of that, I ended up, taking a loss on the first time around on SQs. But once this thing started to actually reverse here, I was able to make my money back, right? But I need to do a better job of becoming more patient and really waiting for true confirmation when averaging up, right? I know I say it all the time, but, I need to get in the habit of really practicing what I preach. And as this thing would start to pick back up, I would buy back into SQs, average up when I would see it start to get rejected even in the slightest bit, right? But I needed to have been real with myself and realize that this thing was still trading above the EMA, right? The EMA is this blue line here. You guys can see it was clearly still bouncing and trading above it. And so it would not be in my best interest to fully size in if something hasn't even broken below the EMA, right? Once I see it peak out, become overextended, and start to trade below the EMA and pull on back, that would give me a better confirmation, right, that it's, maybe a smarter time to average in there. But if I'm just blindly averaging in and just giving back my profit on the way up because I'm trying to predict where it's going to reverse, right, then I'm just doing myself a disservice and just wasting my time at that point, right? I'm just giving back the hard-earned profit that I worked so hard to make right earlier on in the morning. And so as this thing would start to sell off, I would get back in, right? And these direction changes really is something that I struggle with and need to get better. I need to learn to stop being so impulsive and take a step back and really wait for this margin to set itself up for another drop, right? Rather than blindly buying in and continuing to send it on the way up, thinking it's going to finally, start to sell off, right? I need to just be trading a lot smarter and have that in mind. But, I am just ultimately glad to see that the rejection I thought could happen on the day did end up happening, in fact, right? As you guys can see, just even on the past 10 days, right? There's been a really strong support around this area, right? And we've been trading around a resistance around this general area. And although we did, pass it today and break above it, we ultimately did get rejected, right? Once that CPI news did start to die out and all the hype does start to die out, we eventually corrected ourselves in price. And I was anticipating a bounce around this area because of the fact that we experienced one, just a day or two ago. And we did so on the 1st of the month, right? And so it just made sense to me why this thing could potentially pull on back around here. And it would be smart to lock in profits for SQQQ. But although I wasn't actually able to ride this thing down, right? I stopped trading around this area because I had to go to work. But, right, there was still plenty of margin to be made on the fall here. And then on top of that, look at this margin that you could have made on TQs, right? 1.3% on the NASDAQ future itself would correlate to almost a 4% move for TQQQ, right? If I pull it up, you guys will be able to see that. And that's cool to see because you could have made money as the NASDAQ was pulling on back. And, if you were patient enough to wait for the margin to really set itself up, right, then you could have made, some nice money on the way back up here, right? Another 4% move on the way up. But, yep, that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about in today's video. Thank you guys so much for tuning in and your support always. It really means a lot. But I will be posting a recap tomorrow, so I hope to see you guys then. Take care and have a good rest of your day.